Hello and welcome to episode 77 of Gondor Calls for Ale, a Middle-earth strategy battle games podcast. I am, of course, your host, Sam Gallagher, and with me for another episode is my brother, Ben.
Hello. Thank you for joining us for this episode 77.
Yes, on a scale from 70 to 76, you are 77. No, that only really works with 11. All right, Ben, before we continue on into any more terrible punes or play on words, I got to ask you, actually, we're going to get into some more, what I assume punes or play on words, and that is, of course, Ben, the ale. What are you drinking this fine evening?
Well, Sam, for the continuation of our Adepticon episode, I have myself a Snow Troll Stout. For whether you are mourning the loss of your dead friends or punching Dunlandings in the snow, there is snow beer, like a Snow Troll beer. And a Snow Troll beer don't stop.
Very good. Very good.
What about you, Sam? What are you drinking for this episode?
Well, Ben, currently I'm having a water, but because I couldn't hold back, because before we began recording, I had a Wose's whiskey, which is of course an untamed and earthy, with a spirit as wild and enduring as the wild men of the wood. So there we have it. Nice. There we have it. Wose's whiskey, Snow Troll beer, water. It's all coming up. Gondor Calls for Ale, and or you, dear listener or viewer, because you're about to be enlightened, told a tale. From the great red book of printed out pages about the final games of Adepticon. Ben, do you want to summarize? What are we talking about in this episode a little more clearly than I just did?
All right. So in this episode, we are going to be covering the part 2 of Adepticon, our final 3 games. So 6 more battle reports. 3 from each of us, Game 4, Game 5, and Game 6. Sam, at the end of the previous episode, what were you sitting on? How were you doing for wins and losses? How were you feeling about the army of Helm Hammerhand?
All right, now let's cast my mind back many long ages past or whatever. Anyway, it's been a little while since Adepticon. I believe I won my first game, lost my second game, and won my third game. So I was 2-1 with 1 game remaining in the day. I was pretty much. I was enjoying the army. I think thus far. I think there's quite a lot of. I faced quite a lot of shooting with a low defense army, which doesn't feel great. And it is definitely an army that if Helm or Hera, or both of them, don't show up for a game, it will end poorly. So we had won that I was really hoping for one more win. I was hoping I could go 3-3 with an army that I don't think is great. So that's how I was feeling. Ben, what about you? Where were you? What was your record, and how were you feeling about the besiegers of the Hornburg?
So at this point in the tournament, I had tied my first game, won my second game, and lost my third game. So I was 1-1-1.
Or dreaded Nelson, did you stand on one leg for the entire final game?
Maybe I should have done, Sam. Maybe I should have done. Like all of my hill tribesmen, I too should have been standing on one leg.
Very good.
I was feeling pretty neutral about the hill tribesmen. I mean, I know I enjoy the army, Sam. I think they're really fun. I don't think they're a particularly powerful list. I don't think they're terrible either. I think they're, and I think my record maybe shows that with the army. Yeah, that's all really. Anyway, so yeah, we're going to continue on, Sam, into round 4.
Yes.
And I believe you are kicking us off. So I shall talk about the scenario. We're going to hear a little more from Ben. No one ever said, let's hear a little more from Sam, after all. We want to hear about Frodo and scenario 5, which was Reconnoiter in round 4. So, Reconnoiter. Round 4, we have a game where we don't start on the board. So there are no deployment zones for me to describe to you, even though I have gotten the correct deployment zone. So Sam can still go and get you a box.
Perfect.
Nailed it. All right, so we've got a game that ends when one side has been reduced to 25% of its starting number. You score 4 victory points if more of your models have escaped the battlefield via your opponent's board edge, than vice versa. If twice as many of your models have escaped the board than your opponent, instead you score 8 victory points. If at least 3 of your models and 3 times as many as your opponent have escaped the board edge, then you instead score 12 victory points. You score 1 victory point for each of your hero models that escaped the board, to a maximum of 3 victory points. You score 1 victory point if the enemy general was wounded during the game, 2 if they are slain, 1 victory point if the enemy army is broken at the end of the game, and 3 if they are broken and you are not. All right, and your army enters via reinforcement, so you roll a d6 for each warband. On a roll of a 1, 2, or 3, the warband does not arrive. On a roll of a 4 through 6, they do arrive. If they don't arrive on a turn, they get a +1 next turn, and it is cumulative. So you can get +1, +2, and up to +3 you will be arriving on turn 4. All right, Sam, tell me all about your game of Reconnoiter.
Well, I was playing. I failed to. Oh, I was playing James. I did not fail to write his name down. I was playing James, who was playing the Blackgate Opens, which is, of course, led by a Super Troll. It, of course, includes the Mouth of Sauron. Both those things are mandatory. And he had a Moran and Orc captain, and then a bunch of Moran and Orcs, basically. I won priority for the first turn, and I made James go first. The troll arrived, the mouth arrived, and the captain all arrived. No, maybe sorry. The mouth I think doesn't arrive. I think that's right. Yeah. So the troll arrives and the captain arrives. And we're playing on a Rohan village with a few scattered trees and some houses and stuff. I roll for my army to arrive, and Hera doesn't arrive. Helm does arrive by himself, and then Olwen and her warband arrive. And basically, my game plan into this is to essentially try and ride my riders and Hera, or not Hera. My riders and Olwen are going to sort of duke around and try and ride off to a flank. Hopefully, he doesn't leave anyone to try and catch them, because I'm going to then dismount and walk off the board. And if I end a turn within 6 inches of the board, I'll dismount and then walk off. Because then each of my riders and Hera, and Olwen, that's annoying, I'm doing that now, gain the dominant 2 for being infantry. And so therefore, if I can get my 6 riders and a hero off, I will have got 14 models off the board and a hero, so I'll be feeling pretty good about that. So turn 2, James win priority and makes me go first. I basically just move up. His army is mostly centered in the board that's come on thus far. Once again, Hera doesn't arrive at the end of my turn, so I sort of push Helm up to the middle. The plan is to let James's army come to me and basically pass the middle point, where there's a house that Helm can sort of have his back to, and then he can pop out either side that he needs. On James's turn, he again just sends everyone forwards, and this time the mouth does arrive. We have 2 turns where I win priority and make James go first. I just sort of want to see where everything is. Hera, I should say, arrives on turn 3 and moves up, and basically I want my my army to be together, so we're going to be playing on my half of the board. I put, as you can see if you're watching, I basically have Hera and her warband using a tree, and there's a house on the other side of that tree and a house on their left side as sort of to try and make this wall. I put my riders off on the far left board, and on the other there's basically a big long, it's like 2 or 3 Rohan houses built together in a long row. So if they can whip around that, there's basically James isn't going to be able to send anyone to catch them. He has a couple of models coming down that route as well, but not a huge number of them. So turn 5 goes to me. I give it to James. He moves forwards. I get Helm into combat, and he charges in, calls a free heroic combat. I think there's another model that gets engaged. Anyway, I decide to spend a might of Helms to... that's right. So Helm goes into combat, and I think he's only fighting 1 orc, and I have to spend a might to kill the orc. Or maybe he's fighting 2, and no, it was just 1. I spend a might to kill the orc, because I can then plow into his captain or another couple of orcs. So I do that, spend the might on Helm. I think I then do a wound to the captain. I only do 1 wound, unfortunately, and he passes his fate, so his captain is still alive. Turn 6 goes to James. He uses he takes priority. Olwen calls a move so she can like run her troop off around the side of this building because they're pretty close to a big clump of Moran and Orcs and a troll. And the lines lock. We get some more combats. I should say last turn I lost another model, which was probably from the 6 infantry models in Olwen's warband were further up than most of Hera's. We get some combat. I think Hera goes into a couple of Moran and Orcs. Helm gets charged by the captain again. The mouth tries to transfix Helm, and luckily he fails. Helm has to spend a point of might to do a wound to the captain, or to do a second wound. Yeah, I guess it was to do 1 wound to the captain to get a kill. Hera unfortunately loses the fight and takes 2 wounds, I think, and spends all of her fate and successfully fails them all. She basically, Hera loses all of her fate and takes 2 wounds, which is like pretty terrible. I do manage to kill 3 models, but I also lose 3 models. And this, I was so excited because I spent the resources to do it. The Moran and Orc captain was in the middle clump of, there were like 10 plus Moran and Orcs around him. I was like, this is the time. He's trying to get to my board edge. He's going to have to take a courage test. They're all low courage. They're going to like run away. This is going to be great. I'm super excited. I'm going to finally use this rule. We get to the end of the turn. I totally forget. I don't totally forget about it until like midway through the next turn. I'm just like, oh man. So I was like super annoyed because I was like, yes, this is going to be so great. And then just totally forgot about it. Next turn again goes to James. I call a move with Hera. He calls a move with the mouth. The move goes to me. We basically engage in combat. The mouth once again tries to transfix Helm and fails. This is a pretty good turn. Helm calls a free heroic combat. I managed to kill 8 models and only lose 2. I think at this point my cavalry have killed the couple models he was sending down the flank and have shot off to his back board edge. James is sort of like separating his army. The troll is kind of staying in the middle and trying to kill a couple of models, but he is sending a group back towards my board edge, and I'd broken some of Hera's warband off to try and catch them a little bit. So turn 8 goes to James again. He takes priority. I decide to I don't call a move for some reason. Sorry, I'm trying to translate my notes. So turn 8 goes to James, keeps it. I don't call a move. The mouth transfixes Hera. I use will. I think I just use 1 will or 2 will and resist on a 6, so I get 1 back. We get some more combats. And I lose 3 models but kill 2. It's sort of academic, really, at this point. I think around this time I managed to get Hera and 5 of my riders. I have 1 rider that I was sort of maybe...
Olwen.
Yes, sorry. I think I managed to get Olwen and 5 riders to the board edge, and because I successfully managed to pull that off. I get Olwen to the board edge, 5 riders, dismount, walk off, get a total of 12 models off the board, and a hero. Pretty good. I do, however, on turn 9, I do lose Hera. I think the mouth charges into her, wins the fight because she ended up being low on might for some reason. I think I have that she had to spend 2 might to win a fight.
Maybe she was just fighting like 4 Moran and Orcs, and you didn't want to eat,
Yeah, but I also have that crossed out, which is the thing. So anyway, and she totally, so she gets charged by the mouth, loses, fails her.
Fate.
No, the ability on the 4+, she doesn't get knocked over because the mouth's
unyielding combat stance.
Unyielding combat stance. I have not passed a single one, which is super annoying. And she gets killed by the mouth, which is a bummer. But she's on 1 wound, no fate, and he's getting 4 strikes. Like sort of not surprising. I do kill 5 models and lose 6. Turn 10 goes to me. I managed to kill the mouth. I think Helm rushes in and punches him in the face. Turn 11. also goes to me, and Helm fights the troll, and we get a strike off. I win against the troll. Unfortunately, I think I only do 2 wounds to him, and he passes his first, or fails. No, he passes his first fate and fails his second fate, which is a shame because 2 wounds, if he failed both of them, is enough to kill the troll in one shot, which would have been hilarious. But it was not to be. And the game then ended there, and I did do a bad job of writing down what the score was. Because it was a very, very long day.
Yes.
And I was just sort of ready to be done at the end of round 4. I am, however, looking it up now because I have the power to do that. It was a major victory to me. I just don't remember what the score was. It was 10-3.
Oh, I figured it would have been higher than that.
Well, because he ended up getting a couple models off, so I think I got I didn't get the full triple. I think he ended up getting like he must have got like 5 models off. I should say at the end of this game, Helm blew the horn of Helm Hammerhand, and like most of his army ran away. Except and he had like 6 or 7 models right by the board edge that hadn't walked off, so he managed to get like 4 off earlier. And all of them but like the 2 he needed, all but 2 ran off, so it definitely stopped him from being able to win, to be able to get more models off than me and Reconnoiter, but he still had enough to stick around to not get the triple. And then he killed my leader and stuff. So yeah, it was a good game. Disappointing. This was one of the ones where Helm and Hera both sort of like didn't show up. Helm did some stuff, but was like consistently killing one Moran and Orc on all his free heroic combats and stuff. And it's just, you really need him to be like killing 2 and then going into another one and killing another one. And Hera like just absolutely failing all of her fate and going down to 1 wound like very early in the game from just like a hand from like 4 Moran and Orcs or something. Was just like, that's annoying.
Yeah, I almost wonder. I mean, I don't know. I almost wonder if you don't want to be trying for like 3 models with Helm, like go into 1, call the heroic combat, and then go into 2.
Yeah, it's just hard. He like that's the one of the bad things about the army, right? Is that I am well outnumbered. His troops all out fight me, which is annoying because they get +1 fight against men, so they get to fight 4.
And they win you on 4s.
Right. Well, no, because they don't have hatred, man.
Oh, they don't get the hatred, that's right.
But they do get animosity if they outnumber me, but luckily I was able to fight in the gaps enough. But it was the kind of thing that, like, if I had priority and Helm charged in, he would charge into, like, he could charge into 1, but then he was going to get countercharged by another one. So he was going to be fighting a couple anyway, so I sort of might as well stop him from being able to sneak a guy by or whatever. So yeah, that was my game 4. I was ready for a break, that's for sure. Ben, you want to take us away into yours?
Sure, yeah. So, being 1-1-1, I was back where I started after round 1. After round 1, I tied my first game and was in the middle of the pack and was on table, I think this is table 21, this is table 21. So after having then won a game and lost a game, I was back on table 21, playing against Kevin, who was a fantastic opponent. I think this is, despite being pretty exhausted myself as well, Sam, this I think was the most fun game that I had of the event. And Kevin was playing pure Lothlorien, it's all pure now, isn't it? He's playing Lothlorien with Galadriel, Celeborn, and Haldir. And I had, of course, in my previous game, just been shot to death by a bunch of elf bows, and I told him this, and I don't know that I took a single shooting casualty this game, so maybe 1 or 2. But so that was good. Kevin was a great sport and also played this game very, very well. So he won the roll off for choosing priority for turn 1 and gave it to me. So I rolled Wolf first and he did not arrive. I rolled for General Tug and he did not arrive. I rolled for Captain number 1 and he arrived. He came onto the board on my right hand flank. I rolled for Captain number 2 and he did not arrive. And then Sam, I rolled for Shank and Rot and the Snow Troll and they did not arrive. So my army was taking it easy. Galadriel rolled a 3 and spent a point of might to come onto the board. Celeborn didn't arrive on the board. and Haldir also spent a point of might to arrive onto the board.
Hmm.
I won the next 2 priority roll-offs, made Kevin go first. On the turn 2, Wolf, Targ, and my other captain arrived. Shank did not arrive. I should have just spent a point of Shank's might. I think he might have rolled a 1, though, so I would have had to spend 2 points of might to come onto the board. And didn't want to burn all of Shank's might just to get onto the table. Because what I wanted to do is get my army in a clump and like march down the table. But I didn't. So I've got all the Dunlanding forces on by turn 2. Celeborn arrives on the board on turn 2. Turn 3, I give priority again to Kevin. Celeborn and Galadriel both throw up some spells. We get a Fog of Dismay and an Aura of Disarray or something like that. One of which makes me take intelligence tests at a -1, I think. So it basically makes it harder for my troll to hurl stuff. He's already pretty dumb. He's not going to be doing any hurling. And the other one is just a fear bubble on Celeborn.
I don't think that's true.
It didn't come up.
Doesn't it?
But,
Does it not give everyone with? No, that's a different one. I was thinking it was the one that gave everyone within a range of him fearful. But that's
a different one.
Yeah, that's the ring
That's
rage one.
Instill Fear.
Yeah. Much better.
Anyway, yeah, it didn't come up because it was on Galadriel. So Galadriel is on my right hand side, Celeborn is on the left, and Haldir is in the middle. And we're playing on this wooded board with this big dead Mumakil, so that sort of makes for a kind of right-hand flank. And my idea was I was going to sort of split my army around this Mumakil, or maybe not. And maybe I was going to punch through the middle. Maybe I was going to go heavy down behind this Mumakil and try and stop the elves getting off the board. But I wanted the troll there because the troll is, even if he gets countercharged by the elves, he still fights 6. He's my real hitter. And I really wanted the troll there. So I wasn't calling marches early on in the game. So by turn 4, where I get the troll on the board, it doesn't arrive on turn 3 either. I definitely should have spent a point of Shank's Might at that point. Didn't do it either. Troll doesn't come on until turn 4, so I'm like really dawdling with my army, waiting for the troll to catch up, hiding behind trees so we don't take any shooting casualties. And Galadriel is pushing up my right-hand flank. I've got a small scattering of hillmen over there. I've got maybe 10 hillmen and a captain to sort of... My idea was to just slow down the elves and distract Galadriel while the rest of my forces pushed up the board. Unfortunately, that left Celeborn free to harass both Wolf and the Troll to my... it didn't go very well for me. So, on turn 5, Kevin takes priority and gives it to me, so I move first. We don't get a lot of action this turn, but I do get 2 shooting kills with my trusty hillmen who have set up some shooting lanes in the backfield and are taking some shots. Turn 5, I take priority, move first, and I think I played this badly. I maybe should have given him priority, or... I'm sorry, turn 6. I do take priority. He does move first. He transfixed Wolf. And... I don't know. I delayed a turn longer than I needed to, essentially, in this game. And that let him push further up the board than was ideal for me. I was still waiting for the troll to catch up. I do take a couple of shooting casualties this turn. 3 shooting casualties, inflict another one in return. And like I said, Wolf is transfixed, so he can't even cause any stress to the elves, which is the other reason I didn't want to push forwards with my hillmen. Although you can see I've got all my flaming brand guys behind this rock ready to make a break for it as soon as one of my captains calls a march, which I never managed to pull together. Meanwhile, on the other flank, Galadriel is pushing forwards into threat range of my hillmen. Turn 7, Kevin takes priority and chooses to go first. So we get a move off between my captain and Galadriel goes first. He spends 2 will to transfix my captain, to compel my captain, who fails his resist and just wanders off away from the elves. The elves then jump on the hillmen over there and proceed to slaughter them over the next few turns. On the other flank, General Targ calls a move, and Haldir also calls a move. The move off... I'm sorry, I'm looking at the wrong turn. That's next turn. So we don't get any other move offs on the other flank. I think we're still not in contact on that flank. Yeah, you can kind of see the troll is just catching up. Haldir's warband is pushing forwards, and my flaming brand guys are still stuck on the right hand flank there. And essentially, what happens is I've left it too long. Galadriel is able to move off the board on turn 8. She's just able to keep compelling my captain out of the way. The hillmen over there are not enough to stop the elves. So Galadriel and 3 elves walk off the board, at which point Kevin starts two-handing with all of his elves, and I start slaughtering them in droves. Celeborn does a really good job of holding Wolf in place. When the game ended on time, Wolf was 1 more turn away from moving off the board, and all of my Flaming Brand guys were 2 more turns. I never did get a lot of marches called. I ended up calling a lot of moves. I lost most of the move-offs, which was a bit unfortunate. Towards the end of the game, though, I managed to call a heroic combat with Rot and a strike with Shank, and then they both charged into Haldir and killed Haldir together. It was actually Rot that got the kill on Haldir. He wasn't carrying a ring, which was a bit unfortunate, but at this point, Rot was 2 for 2 on Elf Princelings, having killed Legolas and Haldir at the end of the game, which felt pretty good. So this game ended up being in a 13 for 3 loss. I did actually quarter Kevin on the last turn of the game as the time was running out as well. So I got 3 points for breaking him without being broken. I think I only took about 15 casualties, which is nothing for the Hill Drives. But he moved Galadriel off the board for 1 hero victory point, and then had moved 3 models and more than me off the board for 12. So 13 to a 3 loss for the Hill Tribes here. Kevin was super fun to play against. I had a great time as I saw this game slipping away from me. I had a great time just slaughtering the elves as he was two-handing with all the elves, and I was just butchering them and taking them off the board in pieces. Was great fun to lose. I've decided, Sam, that I'm terrible at Reconnoiter. I don't actually know if I've ever won a game of Reconnoiter, but I have good fun killing people while I lose Reconnoiter, is what I've decided.
Yeah. Fair enough. Fair enough. And then that was it. We were done with our 12-hour day. We got to go and get some food.
Yep.
And went to bed, and then we're gonna do it all again the next day. I guess we also
half as much the next day, Sam.
Yeah. Oh, I guess that's true. It was an 11-hour day before. In between, then got to go and find out how I did at Golden Demon, sort of, which was cool. So I got a finalist pin in the old world, a note or commended entry in Age of Sigmar single, and weirdly, anyway, whatever. My Helm Hammerhand, who was in the Middle Earth category, only got a notable entry, which was a little funny because I think that was the strongest entry I had, and it wasn't a very strong category this year. So ho hum, you just have to try again. But that was nice to at least not have the stress of trying to go to sleep and then be like, oh, I have to rush there before I get to my first game tomorrow, and blah blah blah. So there we have it. Then we get into. Should we get into round 5 then?
Yes, let us indeed get into round 5, Sam, where we played Fog of War. Do you want to give us a read through of the old Fog of War?
I surely do, Ben. This is, of course, a game with deployment zones which are 12 inches up. You can obviously see that if you're viewing this on a viewable thing. If you're listening to it, you can believe me, or I can get you a box. We have a game that lasts until one force has been broken, and then it may suddenly end on a 1 or a 2. We've got some scoring victory points. At the start of the game, secretly note down one of your own hero models. This may not be your general unless you only have 1 hero. You score 1 victory point if the nominated hero is still alive at the end of the game. If the nominated hero is still alive and has suffered no wounds, instead you score 3. If the nominated hero is still alive, has suffered no wounds, and spent no fate, instead you score 5. At the start of the game, secretly note down one of your opponent's heroes. This may not be your opponent's general unless they have only 1 hero. You score 1 victory point for causing 1 or more wounds to the nominated hero. Wounds prevented by fate don't count. If the nominated hero has been removed as a casualty, instead you score 3. If the nominated hero has been removed as a casualty as a result of one of your models wounding them in combat, instead you score 5. And then at the start of the game, secretly note down a single piece of terrain wholly within your opponent's half of the board. You score 1 victory point at the end of the game if you have more models than your opponent on or in base contact with the chosen piece of terrain. At the end of the game, if you have 2 models and twice as many as your opponent, instead you score 3. If your opponent has no models in contact with your chosen piece of terrain and you have at least 2, instead you score 5 victory points. And then you score 1 victory point if the enemy general has been wounded during the game. If the enemy general has removed as a casualty, instead you score 2. You score 1 victory point if the enemy army is broken at the end of the game. If the enemy army is broken and yours is not, instead you score 3 victory points. Whew. There you have it. It's actually, I almost just like summarized that, and I was like, no, because I'm still not very clear, or I'm not as clear as I was on the previous scenarios of what all the scoring is. So the repetition definitely helps me to get it.
Absolutely.
All right, shall we move on in, and I can talk about the table and who I was playing?
Tell me all about it, Sam.
There we go. There is a delay on your
Delay there.
end.
I was sitting at the slide has slided. Tell me, Sam. Tell me.
Yes, it had not slidden for me, and you're all pixelated. So we'll see how this editing goes. Anyway, I was playing Travis, who was playing the Last Alliance. His army was led by Elrond, Master of Rivendell, or Herald of Gil-galad, if you're timeline accurate, I suppose, and Isildur, who was on horse, and then he had a decent number of elves and Númenóreans. I think he maybe had like one Rivendell knight, maybe two, and a good chunk of archers. And we were playing on a really cool looking board, but one that was very light on terrain in the middle of it. And classically, my opponent deployed and was like, yep, I'm just going to gunline you for as many turns as I can, basically. Also interesting because I think the TO went around and told people what could or couldn't be counted as scoreable terrain, because across Adepticon there were a lot of like individual trees on boards, which I believe he told people couldn't be scored, but didn't tell us. So anyway, so my opponent's terrain piece ended up being a tree.
It's a difficult board to select a terrain feature on, though, because there are no like.
Weird.
They're all.
It's a weird one. It would have been a good one for him to be like, "This is one piece. This is not." Anyway, it doesn't matter. So turn one, I win priority. I make Travis go first. He stays put and shoots me, and he causes 3 wounds, 3 casualties. Turn 2 goes to Travis. He decides to take it, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, he decides to take it, and he stays put and shoots me. Doesn't do any wounds this turn. Turn 3 goes to me. Turn 3 goes to him. Travis keeps it, shoots me, does 2 wounds. I've now lost 5 models from shooting. We had the same number of models in our army, and now he outnumbers me by 5 models and outfights me. And is stronger than me. Not great. And I should say I have Hera. Hera is who I'm trying to protect. I have her and her riders on the left-hand flank, and basically everyone else is...
Olwen.
Sorry, Olwen. God damn it. Olwen and her riders on the left-hand flank. The rest of my army, I ended up putting the 6 models from Olwen's warband kind of central, and I was like, these guys are going to be my decoy, please shoot at me. And just walked them with no in the ways, and the rest of them I was trying to thread through ruins and trees on my right-hand flank and get up in as close as I could. It worked. He killed all of the models that were in the open, but he did prioritize shooting them rather than going for Hera or Helm with a bunch of in the ways, which is just the last thing I wanted him to be doing. Turn 4 goes to me, and I think we get some combat this turn. So turn 4 goes to me, and I decide to give him priority. I decide if he wants to run away and back up, that's fine. So this is like turn 2 or something. If he decides he wants to back up and shoot me some more, fine, whatever. I think he basically he shuffles his archers and basically stays put. I managed to get a couple models in charge range in combat. I charge in with the first one into an elf, whirling blade, 6 kills a model. I charge another one into an elf, whirling blade, 6 kills a model. So I've now lost 5 models to shooting and 2 to whirling blades. So 7 models without being able to respond was pretty brutal.
That's like a fifth of your army. You have 35 models, right? That's exactly a fifth of your army.
So it's more than the fifth of my army. I don't get, because I really don't want him shooting at Helm and Hera, they are not in the front rank, and so I don't get either of them into combat this turn. I lose a total of another 3. I lose a total of 5 models this turn from shooting or whirling blades or just general combat. I do kill 1. I think it's a Númenórean. Turn 5 goes to me. He considers using foresight points. He in fact tells me he's going to, and then changes his mind. I keep priority.
Is that a hindsight point then?
Yeah, right. Which is fine. You use it before I decide. So It was obvious I was going to choose me. We charge in. I managed to get one warrior into Elrond because I really didn't want him Wrath of Ruining, and do a wound with a throwing spear. He passes his fate, so that was slightly disappointing, but also slightly exciting. Hera charges into 2 Númenóreans, I think, and I lose another 2 models to Whirling Blades. And at this point, I'm like getting pretty heated about like the dude's rolling nothing but 6s, both on the Whirling Blades and to win the fights, which is just absolutely brutal. And he's like, "Oh, it's not being that good." Anyway, I should say that Olwen and her riders are just like hanging out on his left flank in a ruin, and are like sort of bouncing around, and he's like slowly backing up his line. You can see in this picture he's like slowly backing up like half of his army, is just like not engaging my army, and like looking at these riders, and I'm like, it's pretty fucking obvious where I'm going, but apparently not. He thought I was going for a different ruin. And anyway, so we Hera has to spend 2 points of might to win her fight. No, sorry. She spends 1 point of might to win a fight. So she got a 5, he got the 6. Spends a point of might. Luckily, I outfight them, and I kill. And Helm uses her free heroic combat on this turn and has to spend a point of might to win. And then, because I think my plan was to then charge into Elrond. So this is actually several turns later. Anyway, so I kill 2 models and lose another 5 this turn. Turn 6. Yeah, turn 6, I win priority. He uses his foresight points this time, calls a channel with Elrond. I decide I can't get Helm into Elrond. Can you actually go back a slide?
Sure, yeah.
Just I call, so yeah, so this is about where we are. I decide I can't, like, Helm can't get into Elrond, he can't reach. And I don't call a move with Helm, and Hera, I don't want to spend her last point of might on this move, so he calls the channel, uses 1 point of will for Wrath of Brunin. Helm uses, I think he uses all of his will to attempt to resist, and I get the 6.
Nice.
So then he's like, oh man, like all disappointed, but still charges into Helm. And then the lines relock. We basically get a strike off. So Helm uses a point of might to strike. Elrond uses a point of might to strike. Elrond's down to 1. I'm also down to 1 on Helm. And we both get the 6. And so now it's an Elven Blade roll off. And Travis rolls a 1. So the Elven Blade goes to the Hammerhands, Ben. And now is a perfect time to say that clearly he was not using the Baron of Dice. Because, Ben, our official sponsor, the Baron of Dice, produces premium wargaming dice with no microbubbles, made out of hand-poured and swirled resin, which are a Gondor Calls rail guaranteed to roll 6s at least some of the time. And had Travis been using those dice, he clearly would have rolled at least a 3 on his Elven Blade. If you would like some dice that you will roll at least a 3 on your Elven Blade sometimes, you can consult the link in the description of wherever you're viewing or listening to this episode and use the promo code capital G, capital C, capital A to get a discount on those Elven Blade rolling dice.
It's the stupid sometimes that gets me. You're like, guaranteed to roll a 3 sometimes on your Elven Blade roll-off.
I'm never wrong.
Never wrong. Sometimes. Guaranteed to sometimes roll it. 100% of the time, it'll probably work.
So I think disappointingly only do like 1 wound to Elrond, or maybe 2. Elrond doesn't die, which is fine, but he is now like down to 1 fate and 1 might. Turn 7 goes to Travis again. And he decides to keep it. I call a move with Hera. I'm like, I can't let him get another Wrath of Brunin off. I need to engage. So it's a pretty big move off. The move goes to Travis. He uses another Wrath of Brunin. Helm uses his single point of... I don't remember what he rolled. But Helm uses his last remaining point of will. Gets the natural 6, so he gets it back and resists. I think Elrond once again goes into Helm.
That's risky, isn't Elrond the general?
He is, yeah.
That's really risky.
He strikes up. I strike up. I think I go higher. Helm punches Elrond to death this turn very satisfactorily. And then the next turn, and I should say there is a point here. I think it was last turn, or maybe it was this turn. There was a point here where Isildur on his horse charged into like one or two. It was two warriors of Rohan who were like directly. If he called a combat, killed them, he could charge into Hera. We like moved on. It didn't really register. I will be 100% honest. It didn't really register to me that he was going to call the combat and go into Hera. And we moved on and did like half the other combats, and then he goes, "Oh shit, I forgot to call a heroic combat." And I looked at it and I was like, this is like it was a really rough situation, because I could say, okay, you can call a heroic combat, and then I give him Hera. Like, Hera is going to die. She's out of might. She would be probably knocked out anyway. So it was he outfights her. It was a really tough thing, because I was like, this is one of those things where it's like, oh, you're going to call a heroic combat and go into my banner. Like, sure, man, you can have the heroic combat, but I can't basically just like, I'll let you go back and call the combat and guarantee you kill my leader, essentially. And if it hadn't been, I would be more likely to accept the outrageous number of sixes and like shooting kills, and the fact that I was playing on his side of the board. And I honestly, like, and maybe I'm just bad at the game, didn't see that was going to be a combat he was going to call. It wasn't like, oh god, he's here, he's guaranteed to call a combat. So there was no like, I'm going to try and rush through to get through the combat so he forgets. Anyway, so I was like, sorry, bud, basically, is what ended up happening. So the following turn, the priority goes to me. He calls a move with Isildur. I use Hera's last point. I guess Hera wasn't out of might. She had one more. So I call a move with Hera. The move goes to me. I'm able to get Hera, Helm, and a Rohan warrior into Isildur, tie up the rest of his lines in such a way that he can't peel any of them. I guess I call the free combat with Helm. I think Isildur must have been out of might from something else earlier. Anyway, it doesn't. I sort of poorly took notes towards the end of this game. But what ended up happening is Isildur loses the fight and then just gets absolutely clobbered by Helm and Hera. And then I think that is the end of the game. I think I'm broken pretty satisfactorily at this point, and the game ends. I think it continued on. I think it ended on the first turn it could. I think. Sure. Yeah. So it ended up being a 17-4 victory to me, because he didn't touch Olwyn. I killed his leader. I can't remember. I guess he was either trying to kill Helm or Olwyn, and he didn't do anything to either of them.
The way he was throwing Elrond into Helm, he must have been aiming for Helm.
Yeah, probably so. But I'm a little annoyed. I should have taken better notes, but we were sort of in the heat of it at the end. It was getting a little tense.
Yeah, for sure.
And and he was kind of distracted. His kid was playing baseball, and somebody was live streaming it, so he wanted to be like watching that by the end of the game. So I was just trying to get through the game. But yeah, it was basically that Elven blade roll off. If that had gone the other way, Helm would have just been dead. Mm-hmm. Though I also would have got double strikes on Helm, which he shouldn't have been able to, because Helm can't be knocked down by horses, and I would have forgotten that. So it worked out that I didn't need to remember that. But yeah, it was a tense game, especially losing so many models coming in and then so many models to the Whirling Blades was absolutely brutal.
Yeah, those Whirling Blades, they seem like the kind of thing that would just distress me out to play against. Yeah,
I mean, it's every time you charge and he picks up the dice, it's just, you're just like, And unfortunately in this game he got 4 of them, which has to be statistically like so high above average.
Yeah, that's rough. Yeah. Yeah. All right, Sam. Well, that was your game 5. One more to go. On into my game 5. I was playing against Brock, who brought the host of the Witch King.
Mm-hmm.
He had the Witch King, Aldrak, the Khandoom guy, and he had a number of Khandoom warriors. And he had, of course, got the Forge World Khandoom warriors and Aldrak, so very cool. Props to him there. And then he had a Barrow White. Boo, hiss.
Boo.
And I think it was 5 or 6 Dead Marsh Spectres. It was at least 5. If not, no, it was 5. It wasn't 6. It was 5 because there were 2 on one. Ended up being 2 on one flank and 3 on the other. And we were, of course, playing Fog of War. And we had. I was thankful he had no bows when I came to this table, Sam. I just say that because again, table with some terrain here. Yeah. We decided that the rocks on the board here would be rough ground, rocky terrain.
The whole template, or just the rocks?
The whole templates were going to be rough ground. Which I was actually pretty excited about because the troll has Mountain Dweller, so he can just run through there. And of course, the Barrow Whites and Spectres can float through those. But I've got enough guys that he's going to be. I felt confident that I could just sort of swarm little pieces of his army that were broken up by these rocks. I thought it would be more detrimental to him than it would to me. And having the troll able to blast through these areas of rough ground felt really good. Keeps the troll safe from the Witch King in the rough ground. He can go hide. Anyway, feeling good about that. So. We'll get into this game. For my target, Sam, I selected this hill that you can see I've circled here in red. This was where I was going. I was protecting General Targ. He's a good target to protect. He's got 2 fate. He's got will. He's got okay courage. And I was trying to kill Aldrak because I figured I wasn't going to get to the Barrow White and Aldrak would be fighting. So I might as well try to kill him. And we get into it. Brock takes first turn priority and gives it to me. I push forwards. He pushes forwards. I basically reorder my lines. I never don't deploy the army terribly well, and end up shuffling things around once I see where my opponent is. Same thing happens for turn 2. On turn 1, I get 1 shooting kill with my mighty bows. On turn 2, I get 2 shooting kills with my even mightier bows, clearly. And there you can see I've split up my army. I don't know why this didn't occur to me last game, Sam, but it occurred to me in this game that the trick to fighting magic casters and actually just about anything with the Snow Troll and Wolf is actually to split them up. Often I find, I've discovered in this game anyway, that they function much better split up. With Wolf on one flank and the Troll on the other flank, it means that the Witch King really has to make a choice about which one of them he's going to go harass. I should mention too, the Brock had 2 werewolves, very cool. And they were riding out on his flanks. Clearly, they were going to be either defending his terrain feature or scoring the one in my table half. And I could not allow that. That wasn't allowed. And there's Aldrak coming up the board. So turn 3 goes to me. I move first because I'd left the troll. You can see here, I'd left the troll in a bad spot. And I didn't want to give him priority and have him fell sight the troll forwards. Into a bad place where it would then get paralyzed by a Barrow White and be death by orcs. So I gave myself priority. The troll ran away. My hill tribesmen advanced around the rocky ground. I got another shooting kill, and I think the werewolf that was out defending the terrain piece that I was trying to capture charged into combat and got a couple of kills this turn. I took 2 casualties this turn. I'm not sure from what, because he had no bows in his army.
Double black dart.
Oh, this is what it is. One of my guys who was running forwards to protect the troll gets fell-sighted forwards, and a couple of Khandoom guys run in and kill my guys. That's obviously what it is. The Witch King spends 2 will this turn. He's an 18 will Witch King, spends 2 of that will to drain Wolf's courage, and fortunately for me, saving me the agony of deciding whether to try and resist that or not, fails the roll because I probably would have let it go through, or I don't know. It would have been bad. I don't know what I would have done if that had gone through. I really don't. That would have been rough. So he takes next turn priority, a big turn, and decides to go first. I call a move with captain number 2. And he calls a move with the Witch King. The Witch King goes first. He spends 2 will to compel Wolf, who spends 2 will and gets 1 of them back, thus resisting the Dastardly Witch King, which is good because I have plans for Wolf this turn. over by yeah, the Witch King's flank rushes in. Aldrich is on the other flank, facing off against the troll. They're still a little bit of ways away. I basically surrounded the troll with Shank and Rot behind the troll, and then 4 of my hill tribesmen with bows are in front of the troll. So there are 2 to the right hand arc of the troll and 2 to the left hand arc of the troll, and Shank and Rot behind it, so that he has to get 2 successful fell sites off, move 2 hill tribesmen out of the way before then taking a 3rd fell site to move my troll. So I successfully wasn't fell sighted away into bad spots for Aldrich to go and punish my troll through the cunning use of hill tribesmen. Sam. Over on the other flank, Wolf.
Would you say it was the liberal application of hill tribesmen?
Yes, it was a very liberal. I solve all my problems in this army. Liberal application, hill tribesmen solve all my problems.
That's true. Liberal application of bacon and beans, Ben.
Yeah, bacon and beans. So the Witch King has charged into combat. He has failed to compel Wolf. He's charged into combat with 2 hill tribesmen. He's into combat with a hill tribesman. So I just surround him with hill tribesmen so he can't go anywhere. And the Wolf is going in. He's going to go kill an orc, and then he's going to go call a heroic combat and go into this werewolf. You can see in this image the werewolf is in the top right-hand corner. He's protecting the hill. He's behind the Witch King, and I've got a nice little channel for Wolf to go. Wolf can't quite get into him, but he does have enough range to get into combat with an orc. Unfortunately, Wolf failed his courage test. So I was left with the dilemma of, do I burn one of my will to pass the courage test? And I decided
Will you do it?
I decided to. I burned one of Wolf's will, charged into combat with an orc, call a heroic combat this turn. The Witch King also calls a heroic combat. The Witch King's combat goes first. It doesn't matter. He just butchers 2 hill tribesmen, charges into 2 more because he can't go anywhere else because he's surrounded by a liberal application of hill tribesmen. I'm going to keep saying that. It's fun.
It's good.
Wolf's combat goes off. Wolf charges into the werewolf, wins the fight, and completely biffs it and fails to kill the thing. Doesn't do a single damn wound, needing. I've got 8 guys needing 5s.
Yikes.
Yeah, it was rough. Completely biffed it, but has knocked it prone.
Sure.
So turn 5 rolls around. Brock takes priority again and gives it to himself. So I call 3 moves this turn. Sam. I call a move with Wolf because he's all the way out on the flank, facing off against the werewolf and the Witch King. I call a move with my captain, number 2 again, spending his 2nd point of might. He's in the middle of the board in a good spot to call a move. And I call a move with Shank because I have plans for dealing with the other werewolf, which if you look at this image, it's on the left-hand flank by the snow troll. He decides not to counter move anywhere. The Witch King is saving his, as is Aldrak, and the Barrow White, of course, doesn't have any might to call. So I get to move everywhere. Wolf gets to charge in, take round 2 at the werewolf. Shank and Rot get to, one of them go, I think I charge the snow troll into the werewolf. Shank and Rot jump onto an orc. And then all my hill tribesmen charge on in. He does get quite a few counter charges in the middle of the board, though. Around Aldrak, where I just didn't have quite enough hill tribesmen, having liberally applied them elsewhere. In the combat phase, we get some more fights. Aldrak calls a free heroic combat, having killed a model last turn, which is pretty nice. But he does have to spend a point of might to win that fight. Rot also calls a combat this turn. It doesn't matter. I didn't record which one went first. They weren't close enough that it mattered. But basically, Rot and Shank run in, trap the werewolf, because I was having no more biffs from the snow troll or anybody else. And we managed to kill both werewolves this turn. Wolf manages to take his down. We surround the hill tribe, the Witch King with hill tribesmen, so he can't go anywhere. We tag him with 1 so he can't cast any magic. And managed to kill both werewolves this turn. Which brings us into turn 6, which ends up being the final turn of the game, because we are running out of time here. I move one of my hill tribesmen. I win priority, give priority to myself. Aldrak calls a move. The Witch King does not call a move. I don't know why I didn't call a move with the Witch King. Anyway, I call a move. I think General Targ was sitting right there, and he didn't want to deal with the Master of Battle. Anyway, so my other captain calls a move. Shank doesn't call a move. Aldrak calls a move. The move off by Aldrak goes to me. My captain moves first. We tie up Aldrak. Shank, Rot, and the Troll go in, kill some Dead Marsh Spectres. And over on Wolf's flank, we basically just tie up the Witch King again, surrounded with hill tribesmen, send Wolf into one of the Dead Marsh Spectres. We've had enough of taking intelligence tests. Despite being reasonably intelligent army, we've had enough of taking these tests. General Targ got paralyzed last turn. Forgot to mention that. The Barrow White having... he was, like, just in a bad spot. He wasn't able to get to Wolf because Wolf was all the way running away from the Witch King, killing werewolves.
So no Master of Battle, then.
Yeah. So no Master of Battle. Yeah, so I don't know why he didn't call a move with the Witch King there. I had another point. I had Might over there to call moves anyway on Wolf. But anyway, General Targ is paralyzed. I surround him with a bunch of Hill Tribesmen and unparalyze him at the end of this turn. But anyway, so Wolf calls another combat this turn with a bunch of Hill Tribesmen. One of them manages to charge into the Barrow White, wins the fight against the Barrow White, and then gets the 6x4 on the trapped Barrow White and puts a wound on the Barrow White on some random Hill Tribesman. And it didn't even occur to me that he's obviously protecting the Barrow White because that's what you do. It's really hard to kill. It's behind the back lines. And so, like, if I'd been thinking about it, maybe I would have put Wolf into it.
Are they...
I just threw a random Hill Tribesman in and got the wound. It was fantastic.
Are they 2 wounds?
They are 2 wounds. Yeah.
2 wounds and fate? 2 wounds, 2 fate? 2 wounds, no fate?
2 wounds, no fate. So, yeah.
Awesome.
Or at least he didn't take a fate. I assume if he took it, I don't have it marked.
Probably not. They're probably 0-4-0 or 0-5-0. That sounds right.
Yeah. So 1 wound on the Barrow White. That was pretty awesome. Over on the other flank, Shank has called another heroic combat. He and the Troll are fighting a Dead Marsh Spectre, and they have a clear line to Aldrak. Aldrak is right there. Shank and Rot win the fight against the Spectre. The Troll charged, so it's got 4 attacks, and both of them fail to get any wounds on the Spectre. Fail to kill the Spectre, so I do not manage to charge into Aldrak, which was a real shame. Because then I would have outfought Aldrak and the Troll. The Troll would have had a chance to bring him down. But the game ends as it was with an 8-1 victory to me. I scored my terrain feature. I think I broke him.
Importantly, I think worth noting, Ben, that you scored it with 1 Hill Tribesman, but because of his Flaming Brand, he was 2 Hill Tribesmen, and therefore 5 victory points.
Yes, that's right. That is worth noting. One of my Flaming Brands only needed 1 over there. I had enough guys, but instead they went to go wound the Barrow White instead. So
yeah. I mean, this is a rare exception, as he counts as 2.
Yeah.
Gimli's nemesis, the Flaming
Gimli's
Brand.
nemesis, he does count as 2. Each one Legolas kills counts as 2.
All right. So, wrapping it up, I think, Ben, getting closer, ever closer.
That's right. Final round, Sam. Round 6. You are doing remarkably well.
I am.
The defenders of the Hornburg at this point battling for 3rd place.
Well, on table 3, so
on
I
table
think
3, so potentially 3rd place.
Potentially.
Yeah. All right, Sam. So all the way on the tippy top, we were playing. Oh, it's me to talk more. More of me. We were playing a game of Destroy the Supplies. What's the nice thing about playing 6 games with there being 6 scenarios?
You played all of them, yeah.
You got to play all of them, which I did appreciate. So, Destroy the Supplies, a game which has a ending on when one player has been reduced to 25% of their starting number. There are 3 supply objectives per player that are evenly spaced along their 12-inch deployment zone. You score 3 victory points for each enemy supply marker that has been destroyed. You destroy a supply marker by moving a model in base contact with it. That model may not have fought, used a missile weapon, or cast any magical powers, supported in combat, or done anything interesting in its turn in order to burn the supply marker. You score 1 victory point for each enemy supply marker that has not been destroyed, but you have more models within 3 inches of than your opponent. If you have destroyed more supply markers than your opponent, you instead score 1 victory point. You score 1 victory point if the enemy general was wounded, 3 if they are killed. 1 victory point if the enemy army was broken, 3 if they are broken and you are not. 2 victory point if the opponent has no banners at the end of the game. 1 victory point if you have at least 1 banner at the end of the game. If you have more banners than your opponent, you instead score 2 victory points. Alright, Sam. Destroy the supplies. Give me the deets.
All right. Well, I was playing Richard Lynn of Into the West podcast fame. So I knew going in this was going to be a very hard game. In fact, I went going in assuming I was going to lose, which, Ben, is one of the things we talk about on our 5 lessons learnt from Adepticon, which is a half pint currently available on our Patreon. If you're interested in hearing the other 4 lessons and or what I have to say about that specific lesson, you should consider joining our Patreon. You should consider it anyway because it helps us out. It is basically what enables us to do all of this stuff, and you get some sweet, snazzy dice and a bunch of bonus episodes, and you can attend our Patreon exclusive hobby hangs, which will have won the evening that this episode releases.
We will indeed. Looking forward to that.
Yeah, exciting times, exciting times. So I went into this one expecting to lose, which doesn't go very well for me, because when I expect to lose, I tend to I don't try very hard. I'm just like, oh, I'm going to lose anyway, so what's the point? Softens the blow, perhaps, is the point. But Richard was playing the Battle of 5 Armies.
Ooh, very cool.
His army was led by Legolas, so once again I was playing some elves. Legolas, he had Nori, the dwarf, champion of Erebor, who's essentially defense 9, 2 might, 2 will, 2 fate, defense 9 is the reason he took him, and some Iron Hill dwarves. He had a captain of Lake Town with some warriors of Lake Town, and he had Gwaihir. Lasai, Gwaihir, what a wild 150 points when you compare him to like Helm's 180 points.
Or just to anything.
He's just so much better. He should be. I would make him 225 points, and then people might not play him, but he should definitely be 200 points at the very least. Or he should be like 250 if you don't take him with Eagle. Like if he's in the Eagle army list, give him a discount. That's fine. Sure. Yeah, by like 25 points. If you're taking him outside of that, you should pay a premium, because I still think at 200 points you would like include him in an army like this. Maybe 175 is the like max, but it becomes a choice, right?
Sure.
Anyway, so I knew,
like, why would I not?
Right. So I knew this game was going to be tough, but I also knew it was going to be fun because Rich is a very good player, but also really chill and nice, and is not going to try and nickel and dime me on stuff, and it's going to be a pretty good time. So, turn 1, Richard won priority and gave it to me. Basically just moved forwards. I did these, we're playing on this sort of like Osgiliath-ish, or like basically Ruined City kind of board. Again, pretty light in the center of terrain as far as like things you can actually hide behind. There's a decent amount of small in the way pieces, but if you're playing into a lot of shooting, it's a pretty hard one to hide from. But there are big ones in the deployment zone, so I ended up leaving about 6 of my models back or so, like hiding within striking distance of my objectives. And this is where one of the mistakes I make is I don't actually bother measuring to see if they are within 6 inches of the far side of the objective. So if he gets somebody there, are they able to then charge out and tag the person and stop them from burning the objective? I'm just like, yeah, that's probably fine where they are. Don't bother measuring it. Comes up later. Outside of 6, he burns an objective. Could have played that better. So basically, we have a couple turns of moving forwards. He's taking shots at Hera through my lines. I'm trying to give him plenty of in the ways wherever possible. So turn 2 goes to me. I make Richard go first. We go in. Or we just basically move up. He takes some more shots with Legolas, a couple other shots, but we're basically moving. Turn 3 goes to... turn 3, Richard wins priority and gives it to me. Our lines are like close enough now that we can get some combat. So I decide what I'm going to do is... there was a gap where I could take a control zone off somebody and then charge into Gwaihir with a single warrior of Rohan, tag Gwaihir and 1 Iron Hill dwarf, and stop him from being able to jump over my lines. And then I'm like, great, I can send Hera and Helm in and do some killing, and hopefully we can basically get this ball moving, and I can continue to ping Gwaihir and snowball from there. However, that doesn't happen. I lose the fight and lose 2 models. I think Helm is out of range. Helm can't get into combat this turn, that's right. Which is why Richard was okay with giving me priority. Maybe Hera can't get in either. I think she's in the 2nd rank, looking at this picture now. That's probably correct. So I was just like, well, I'll get some kills, push further towards his side, try and pin him in place. I can stop Gwaihir from diving on a character. Great, whatever. again, not really used to. I never see it coming. I never see the hurls coming, and I'm certainly not used to them in this edition. So Guai here, because he's probably like intelligence 3+ or something fucking stupid. Hurls wins the fight. Hurls the model he's in combat with directly at Hera, who fails a point of fate and passes a point of fate after being wounded. Once again, fails her unyielding combat stance, so she's now prone. Turn 4 goes to Richard. He decides to take it. Obviously, Hera is now like prone in the front rank. I call a move with Hera because I'm like, well, she's got to stand up, and then she'll at least get to charge. The move, of course, goes to Richard on this turn, and he is able to charge in to Hera and a bunch of my lines. Helm, you can see about where he is in this picture. He's at the corner. Because again, he's at the corner of this like central ruin because I didn't win priority. I wasn't able to get him into combat. Guai here jumps the lines and charges like one of my models. I think I throw another couple into him. And this is like probably the biggest mistake I make in the game. And again, it's against a flying monster, and I am historically very bad against playing against them. Richard hums and hers about calling a combat with Guai here, so he sort of even gave me that out. Decides not to. He asks very clearly, "Do you want to call anything with anyone else?" And I go, "No, I'm good." I should note that Guai here is both very close to Helm and Olwyn. And we go to the fight with Guai here at some point in time. So basically, not much happens. I lose 5 models, only kill 1. But we get to the fight with Guai here, who has to spend a point of might to win, that's pretty okay for me. And he was like, "Well, I'm really glad I didn't spend the point of might for the combat," and barges, and then is able to get into Helm, wins the fight, and kills Helm. Ooh. So Helm has done nothing, which I then got quite salty about. I was, like, oh, fun game kind of thing, because it's been just like not very good for me thus far. So to Richard, if you're listening, I do apologize for that, and I apologized at the time, and then personally, it was the right thing to do. He gave me the out to do it. Like, what I should have done is I should have either struck with Helm or defensed with Olwyn, and just. But anyway, so I didn't do either of those things. Helm dies, super disappointing, because, as I said about playing this army, that's the only thing I really want to do with it is punch things to death with Helm, and he didn't even see combat this game and didn't have a great game. Or I guess he had a pretty good game the previous turn. Turn 5 goes to Richard. He takes it. I call a move with Olwyn. At this point, I'm like, I'm definitely dead. I'm like definitely going to lose. But so Olwyn decides to charge into Guai here. So there you go. That's Helm being barged and then dying. Olwyn charges into Guai here, and I trap Guai here with a bunch of people. I think Hera stands up, and we get into some combat here. I think on my left flank at this point, he's killed the token number of guys I have left over there. He had like 1 Mirkwood Knight. He sent some elves over there to mop up the 3 guys I had sort of like in between him and my objective. Ran the knight into contact with the supply marker. I then measured and was like, well, I'm outside of 6, so I can't peel him off for a turn. Like, whoops, enjoy your free supply marker, because I measured badly or didn't measure at all. Combat goes great for me. I kill 2 models. I do lose 5, so in that sense, not very good. But Olwyn wins her fight against Guai here. And Guai here's trapped, so she gets 8 dice. I get another 4 dice from the other 2 warrior models in there, and I managed to do like 3 wounds to Guai here, which Richard then fails his first fate, fails his second fate, and rolls a 2 on his third fate, and has to spend both of his points of might. So Guai here's down to 1 wound, no might, no fate. So that feels pretty nice. I mean, it means nothing except like. I might kill the bird, and it would have been good if that had happened before I lost Helm. So that was pretty nice. Turn 6 goes to me. I take it. We have a move off, which the move off goes to Richard again. He charges into Hera with Nori, who has throwing weapons, and does a wound to Hera. with that, Legolas then shoots Hera in combat, and I don't know if that kills her, but Hera dies this turn, whether it's from, I think she gets, like, polished off by Nor. Yeah, that's right. So she's out of fate from the throwing weapon, and Legolas is shooting. Nori has might. I don't get the 6. He gets the 6, or he gets the 5 and mites it up to the 6. I'm out of resources. He's able to kill Hera this turn. Olwen then also gets killed by Gwaihir because I managed to fail 3 fate in a row as well and don't have the might to spend it. And then after this, I basically stopped taking notes. He gets
a lot of failed fate.
Yeah, it was pretty wild. I was like the highest of highs when he fails all of them, and I was like, oh my god, that like really sucks. That's so terrible. And then I did the same thing, and I was like, well, that doesn't feel fair because most of my army is gone, and you still have most of yours. I think we then go on for another turn or so. Gwaihir is able to fly off, burn my last supply marker. He's able to burn my central supply marker with some of his troops, and it's all over but the crying. And it was a 20-0 victory to Richard, or 0-20 loss to me, which was a super bummer to lose by so much. I think it's a really tough matchup for me. I think it's probably a pretty good army, and an amazing player playing it, and the thing that was a bummer is that like knocked me out of top 10, which would have been really cool to do with the defenders of the Hornburg. But it was a great game. Richard was, he's super nice, super fun opponent, and maybe one day I'll learn my lesson and actually play a little bit harder. And I made some big mistakes in this game, so
sure, yeah.
The better player certainly won.
Nice. Well, a fun game. Hopefully, a good end to the tournament, even if it was a mashing defeat.
Yeah. We're back.
We're back, team. We're back. Ben has won a game and lost a game, and is once again back on table 21. I made a joke to the TO, and he said, unfortunately, just because of the way that the pairing system works, it's just complicated for them to shuffle players around on tables. Which fair enough. You will note, however, Sam, that this time I was sick of being on the other side of table 21 and losing. Actually, I think I won my first game on table 21. Sure. Anyway, so I decided to swap sides. I hadn't played on the other side. Table 21.
I will say the funny thing about saying that, like, fair enough, that makes sense. But the funny thing about saying that is they had a bunch of open tables, which they should have taken the terrain off those and put them on the other tables that needed more terrain. But they didn't do that. So at the very least for the last round, playing on table 21 where it doesn't actually matter, like, no offense.
Sure. Yeah,
I would have been like,
I played 50% of my game. I played 6 games and 3 of them were on this table.
That's insane.
There was a brief moment of panic where I thought I played on it twice in a row because I was looking at the wrong round in the matchups.
Nice.
Anyway, I was playing against James, your opponent from round 5. Round 4, I think. And he, of course, has the Black Gate opens, led by the Super Troll, the Mouth of Sauron, and a Morannon Orc Captain. We're playing Destroy the Supplies. We're back on good old table 21. We've got some trees. We've got a dead Mumakil, which I was now intimately familiar with and had some shenanigans planned for. So he takes priority. Turn 1, gives it to me. We rush forwards. He takes priority. Turn 2, gives it to me. We push forwards. No shooting kills. Not a lot happens. So at the beginning of the game, I put my troll on my left-hand side of that Mumakil this time. It's on the right hand of the Mumakil. That dead Mumakil is a separate flank. It's blocked off by the terrain feature. The troll is right behind it in deployment and decides to go down the middle. So his Morannon Orc Captain and about 8 Morannons, maybe it was even less than that, might even been 6 Morannons, take opportunity of the troll having sort of sealed itself off from that side of the board to come around behind the Mumakil. So I then, on turn 3, took priority and moved the troll into base contact with the Mumakil and took a climb test to climb Shankrot and the troll back over the Mumakil to block off the captain and his marauding Morannons. The troll made his climb test. Shank made his climb test. Rot, Sam, has been eating too many tasty fingers, is a little stouter around the tummy and rolled a 1 and did not climb over the Mumakil.
Appropriate.
Yeah, I thought that was amusing. So the troll and a handful of hill tribesmen went with him to sort of seal off that flank. And that was my shenanigans with the Mumakil. Elsewhere, the Super Troll Chieftain, the Beefy Chiefy, is in the middle of the table. And this turn, I pass a courage test with a lowly hill tribesman to tie him up. General Targ and a bunch of his friends jump on a Morannon here with the intention of pinning him against a rock and going to cause some havoc, seeing if we can't get rid of James's banner. Because he's up 4 victory points on that banner right now, because I don't have one. So it's worth a lot of victory points for me to try and get rid of that banner this turn. So General Targ calls a combat this turn. Wolf is fighting. I just charged him into 2 Morannon orcs backed up by 2 spears, or maybe he got counter charged. But anyway, he's fighting a lot of Morannons this turn. Completely biffs his combat and has to spend all 3 of his might to win that combat. Maybe that was reckless, but he's definitely the kind of hero that could have gotten killed by those Morannons. I don't know what I was thinking. I was also playing on table 21 for the 3rd time, so Wolf throws all of his might this turn. General Tide calls a heroic combat, which fails to go off. The Beefy Chiefy calls a combat, which he does succeed, but only manages to kill a couple of guys. I kill 5 of the Morannons this turn, but take 8 casualties in return. I proceed to win all of the priorities for the rest of this game, except on the final turn of the game. So if I forget to mention who's moving first, Sam, it's because I was always moving first. On top of that, I got so much more might than him. It honestly felt a little bit oppressive, just because it was like there really wasn't a lot he could do. So I take priority on turn 5. We have a move off. The move off goes to me. In fact, General Tar gets a free move. Wolf charges into the mouth of Sauron. I tie up the Beefy Chiefy with another Hill Tribesman. General Tard calls another combat, which does succeed, and I do manage to kill his banner this turn. You can see it's behind the rock, and General Tard and a bunch of Hill Tribesmen just piled around, got into the Morannon banner, and brought it down. I had a couple of heroic Hill Tribesmen fighting on my extreme left-hand flank. There were 6 Morannons coming around this tree and the board edge, and I had 2 Hill Tribesmen tie up all 6 of those Morannons for like 3 turns in a row. It was glorious. I think maybe one of them died. One of them was there all game, and one of them kept dying and kept getting replaced by was drip feeding more Hill Tribesmen over there. But like if that had buckled and those 6 Morannons had gotten through earlier than they did in this game, I would have lost supply markers sooner. This turn I kill 5 and only lose 3. His captain fighting over against on the Hill Troll's flank is fighting the Troll and has to spend 2 points of might to win the fight against the Troll. Troll gets a 5. Captain wins the fight. Captain and 3 Morannons do 2 wounds to my Troll, and Troll is on 1 wound now, looking a little bit worried. I take the next turn priority, of course, because I will win all of them this turn. We get another move off. The Mouth of Sauron calls a move. My other captain calls a move. And I don't call a move with Shank, because I decided... no, I call a move with Rot, that's right. Rot calls the move. Although he is on the wrong side of the Moomakill, he's still within range of the Troll. So his captain can't move, so I move first with the Troll. He does win the move off, though, so he's moving first with the Mouth of Sauron. Throws a Transfix on Wolf, who burns 3 will and fails. Is a 1-die Transfix. Wolf burns all 3 of his will and fails to resist the Mouth of Sauron. And the Mouth of Sauron charges into Wolf. So, in an attempt to save Wolf in the combat phase, my captain and General Targ both jump on him around an orc. And we call a combat and charge on into the Mouth of Sauron, win the fight against the Mouth of Sauron, have him trapped, have him surrounded, and fail to do a single wound to the Mouth of Sauron. It was amazing. I could not roll 5s this game. It was brutal. Over on the other flank, my Troll does Troll things and kills 4 orcs, which felt really good. Not the captain. He'd had enough of the captain. I tied the captain up with a Hill Tribesman, or peeled him out of the combat with the Troll with a Hill Tribesman. The Beefy Chiefy is sort of stuck in the middle of the board, and at this point, I have run off to the left and run off to the right. That's run off to the right, run off to the left. And the Beefy Chiefy is repeatedly getting tied up by 1 or 2 Hill Tribesmen. He's barging, killing a couple, but not really going anywhere. And at this point, James just decides that the Beefy Chiefy is sick of fighting, and he's hungry for supplies, and he starts pushing towards the backboard edge to burn my supply markers. And there's the Mouth of Sauron surviving a fight that he definitely, he should have at least taken a wound from. So many dies. Unscathed, the Mouth of Sauron. So turn 7 rolls around. I take priority. The troll, my troll, the snow troll, charges into the Morannon Orc captain. Shank goes on into some Morannon Orcs. Rot goes into some Morannon Orcs over in the middle of the board. I managed to burn not one, but 2 supply markers this turn. I get some Hill Tribesmen have finally pushed their way through the Morannon lines. Wolf and General Tar go back into the mouth of Sauron for round 2 this time. Surely they'll win this time. In the combat phase, Sam, Wolf and General Targ win their fight against the mouth of Sauron and fail yet again to inflict a single wound on the bastards.
Yes.
It was amazing. It was amazing. Meanwhile, on the other flank, the Morannon Orc captain wins his fight against the troll and kills my troll, which was sad. Troll died to the Morannon Orc captain, but he did his job. He stopped the flank. He stalled them. But Sam, in shock and horror, Shank finally gets a kill and has found a ring. That's why he didn't save the troll. He was busy looting corpses. Shank finds the first ring of the event today, digs up a ring. Good job this turn. And this turn, I managed to break James's army. I take turn 8 priority. We get some more fights. The Beefy Chiefy calls a combat this turn, pushes into it, and is in base contact with a supply marker, ready to cause trouble. And Rot, Sam, in the combat phase, Rot kills a Morannon Orc, and the Morannon Orc was married, and we have another ring for Mordor. 2 rings for Mordor.
That's awesome.
Yep. And we get into turn 9. James finally wins a priority. I am at this point broken, I should say too. Was broken last turn. James finally wins a priority, but all is not lost for the Hill Tribesmen, Sam, because I have got might for days. So one of my captains calls a move. I don't actually have might for days. He's my last point of might on the table. Calls a move and fails his courage test and runs off the board. So does not call with me, does not move first, does not pass go. The mouth of Sauron charges into Wolf.
I think technically it may have changed. I believe you have to call with me first, then take the courage test, and then if you fail, none of the models within the with me range can move. I believe that happened to me in the previous edition. So
anyway, yeah, it was brutal. He rolled a 3 on his courage test or something. He had 1 will in the mouth of Sauron. This 6-inch harbinger, and this
edition we've moved on from always failing every fate I roll to always failing every courage test with a hero. That's not
a captain, specifically a captain. This captain in particular. Yeah. So my captain runs off the board. The mouth of Sauron spends another turn not being killed by Wolf and General Targ. The Beefy Chiefy manages to burn one of my supply markers, and it ends with a 12-0 victory, a 12-6 victory to me, so not 12-0, 12-6 victory, which was just enough. The 2 rings were just enough to make it a major victory.
That's awesome.
Otherwise, it would have been a minor victory. Super fun game. James completely, and I had forgotten about as well. Still learning all the ins and outs of all the armies. Completely forgot about his Dark Temptation or whatever it is.
No re-rolling ones.
No. The Mordor does.
The Temptation of Sauron.
Temptation of Sauron. Yeah, that's right.
No, it's Sauron.
Sauron.
You must pronounce it like Galadriel from the Rings of Power. Well, Ben, there we have it. So you ended up. What was your final record and what was your standing? Let's hear that.
All right. So for my final record, I had 3 wins, 2 losses, and 1 tie.
Winning record.
Yeah, winning record. Just managed to do it right in the middle of the pack on table 21, where I belong. Let's see. Where am I here? I was 31 of 70 odd players, 79 players.
Hey, just scroll to the bottom.
79 players.
79.
Had about 6 drops. So yeah, right in the middle, just above. What about you, Sam? How did you do?
Well, I went 4-2, so also a winning record, and better than I was hoping for. I feel like and one of my losses feels like it could have been a victory, but it wasn't. And I ended up 14th, which is not bad. And
the 14th player for our expedition.
Yes, exactly. So that was cool. Fun event. Had a good time with the army. Still don't think it's very good. I think Helm could stand to decrease in points.
50 points?
But even 20. But
yeah. Helm and give him to Guy here.
Yeah, right? I mean, seriously. Well, then 50 points, so Helm should be 130. He can be the same as Hera. And Guai can go to 200. Yeah, so yeah, a good event. Happy with how I did. Milwaukee, the Cream City, is a significantly better venue and was way nicer than Schaumburg. So that was cool.
It is tempting to fly next year, though.
Yeah, it's not so bad.
No, it wasn't.
It's the same.
It was nice never have to get in the car again once we got there.
Yeah, it was. We got stuck in traffic in Chicago for about an extra hour you're like an hour and a half away at that point in time, so it took us like 2.5 hours to do the like final bit. So that really sucked. And then we stayed in the worst possible result of Golden Demon, which is I potentially could have won a trophy, so stayed for the ceremony that started at 4, went to 5, didn't win a trophy, and then we ended up packing the car and getting lunch, and so we left at like 6, which meant we got in at about 7 in the morning. But I now have, as Ben has shown, a pretty cool featured on Warhammer community for the second time ever. Which is cool.
Look at that little dwarf guy.
Yeah, so we'll be back hopefully next year to maybe win one. Probably not, but we could try. But I did win Best Painted Army for Lord of the Rings, so that was cool. Yeah. Good.
A great event. I'm gonna go. Just going to go through the top 3. Top 3 players for Adepticon. Starting with number 3 is Sam's final opponent, Mr. Richard Lynn.
Yeah, well
playing
done.
The Battle of 5 Armies.
Yeah.
In second
Could have been
place,
me, Ben. It wouldn't have been me.
Could have been mine. Should have been mine.
No. Even if I had one, it wouldn't have been a 20-0, which is, I don't know whether that was exactly what he needed, but I think the big victory helped.
Sure. Yeah. In second place, we have Mitchell Hammond with the Depths of Moria, a Balrog of Morgoth.
Yeah.
And in first place, 6-0, Julian Miku, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, with the Eagles. Right here, the Windlord, taking first place by storm.
Yeah. He was my final round opponent last year, who played the Watcher and Moria Goblin, beautifully converted Moria Goblin's army. Super, super nice guy. If anyone's going to win with Eagles, Julian is certainly a person that you're like, I don't feel too bad about you with Eagles, because I'm sure like he's fun to play against and isn't putting the screws in when it's when it's others may. So yeah, good event, Ben. Any final thoughts, feelings?
No, not really.
About Adepticon?
700 points is an awkward point size. I've said it before. I'll say it again.
Yeah. 750 would have been more awkward for my army.
650 would have. I just had a beautiful army at 650, and then had 50 extra points, and was like, "What do I do?"
Yeah. I when it got dropped from 8, I was slightly less excited about. I didn't want to choose two upgrades to take away from the trolls, so I decided not to play the trolls. But yeah, it was fun. It was good. I think it's a shame that currently there's so much shooting, and I think that makes it even harder for big events like Adepticon. And I think Nova might actually be even worse because Nova has like very thematic, scenic boards that a lot of them are just like empty in the middle.
Yeah, they're empty in the middle. And I understand like not putting something directly in the middle of the board because there are scenarios where you want the middle like almost like 6 inches on either side of that center of objective and hold ground, right? That's 12 inches. But if you got a 12-inch like bubble of no terrain in the middle of the board, that's the biggest shooting lane anyone needs.
Yeah. If you do that, you need like a lot of stuff around that. So you're like, well, I can hide and then jump in the middle. So I think that is my current gripe with the state of the game. It's an
easy fix. It's just more terrain. We don't need to change any rules.
Yeah, it is an easy fix, but it's also a really hard fix for like a 79 player event. You've got like 40 tables, right? And you're like, you need a lot of fucking terrain. And I'm excited for some more scenarios. Not that I have a problem with the scenarios that we have, but it'll be confusing and nice to play some more. I really hope that people don't push the veto system. I think that's what Nova is advertising itself as currently, even though we don't have that book, which I'm just like, stop it. Unless Games Workshop writes that into their rules, which I doubt they will, but anyway. So yeah, Adepticon, that was that. We'll be back in 2 short weeks to talk about the doubles event. Is there anything else you wish to say or do before we call it an episode, Ben?
No, I don't think so, Sam. I think that is me for this evening.
All right. Well, until next time, as we said, consider checking out our Patreon. Give this video a like, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and all that jazz. And we will be back in 2 short weeks. Thank you for listening to Gondor Calls for Ale. We hope you have enjoyed this episode. We, at Gondor Calls for Ale, are officially sponsored by the Baron of Dice, the producer of premium wargaming dice. These beautifully hand-swirled resin dice have no micro bubbles and are therefore perfectly balanced. With over 3,000 variants and unique designs, nearly every tabletop gaming system is represented. So check out the description of this episode for a link and a discount code. Go buy yourself some new dice and let the good times roll. We at Gondor Calls for Ale are not associated with Games Workshop, New Line Cinema, or the Tolkien Estate. We hope we have not misrepresented or offended anyone. These recordings are strictly recollections of games we've played and are not commentaries on the character or competence of our opponents. They are intended purely for entertainment, and we hope they will be taken as such. You can find us on Patreon, see the link in the description. Supporting Gondor Calls for Ale there helps us continue to produce these episodes. You can find us on Instagram at Gondor_calls_for_ale. Feel free to send us a message there. Or on Facebook as Gondor Calls for Ale, another great place to send us a message. Or you can send us an email at gondorcallsforale@gmail.com. As Boromir, Captain of the White Tower, once said, remember today, listener, today this episode was good.